Good morning, everybody, and those of us that are in the council chambers and those of us that are watching on live stream. We do have quorum, and we can start momentarily. We're just waiting for a couple more members of council, so I'd like to give them just a few more minutes. So I'd ask for your patience. It is 9:34, so we will get started soon. Thank you. Okay, good morning again, everybody. Welcome to this special council meeting for Tuesday, March the 22nd. This is clearly an exciting day for everybody. It's nice to see real live three-dimensional human beings in front of us. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming out here live and in person, and to our staff that's here as well as members of council. Before we get started today, we have an agenda before us. One of the first items on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So I'd like to see a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Liu, Regional and Local Councillor DePaulo, all those in favor? Opposed and carried. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. The second item on the agenda is disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none at this time, Mr. Clerk. Next item on the agenda is our scheduled business. And today, of course, we are here to appoint a qualified person to fill the vacancy in the office of Ward 4 Councillor. And we have a memo from the City Clerk describing that. I'd like to just make a statement before we get started with the formal procedures. So today's meeting, as I said, is to appoint a qualified individual to fill the Ward 4 Council vacancy for the rest of this current term of council. I'd like to welcome everybody attending the meeting in person or watching on the live stream, and a very special welcome to the candidates who have applied to fill the Ward 4 Council vacancy. And I would like to thank everybody for doing that. That's an act of courage, and I appreciate that you stepping your name forward in that role. So today's meeting will follow the council-approved appointment procedures. And so to give you an idea of what that looks like, council will first pass a motion to formally accept the candidates. We'll do that in a minute. We'll then hear from the one public delegation who'll have 5 minutes to address council. And after that, each council or candidate will have up to 10 minutes to address council. The candidate speaking order, as I'm sure the candidates know, was drawn by lot by the city clerk. And we'll first hear from the candidates attending the meeting in person and then go to a few that are going to be attending in a live stream. After the candidate's presentation, members of council will have the option of asking one question to that candidate. I would ask that members of council and the candidates keep the questions and answers concise. We do have a long meeting ahead of us. I'd also like to remind all the delegations and candidates that when addressing council, you aren't allowed to speak disrespectfully about anyone, of course, or use any language that would not be proper. So after all the candidate presentations, the city clerk will conduct rounds of voting to select the candidate to be appointed for the Ward 4 councillor. And at some point, just to let everybody know, around noon, we will be taking a 1 hour lunch break, and potentially we'll see how it goes, but we may have to take a break in the middle of the afternoon as well to give everybody a bio break and so on. So at this point, then I'd like to proceed with agenda 3.1.2 and ask for a mover and a seconder to adopt the list of candidates. So moved by Councillor Chan, seconded by Councillor Munch. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so item 3.1.3 is a delegation from Brian Chapnick from A Better Richmond Hill. Mr. Chapnick, I see you on the screen, and you've got 5 minutes to address council. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors of Richmond Hill. I'm Brian Chapnick, and I live at 110 Arnold Crescent in Richmond Hill. I'm here today representing both myself as a resident of Ward 4 and the organization A Better Richmond Hill, a non-profit, non-partisan organization of residents across the city with a mandate to help make Richmond Hill a better place to live, work, and play. This council has been operating at less than capacity for over a year. This has, to some extent, affected its ability to respond effectively to pressures from the province, the region, the economy, and the residents. And interactions between council members have sometimes been seen as unproductive and lacking in the collaborative spirit that is needed to make key decisions. There are many challenges and issues to be faced by council over the upcoming months and years, including an updated official plan, TOCs, infilling policies, subway and other transit, maintenance and expansion of parkland, protection of the moraine, support for culture and the arts, the addition of new sporting facilities, and maybe eventually relocating the city's offices to a new revitalized downtown venue. A council that works together to address these challenges is crucial to the future success of Richmond Hill. This morning, you will choose a new member, replenishing council to the number of councillors it was intended to have. The new councillor will replace David West, the popular councillor of Ward 4 since 2013, who was recently elected mayor of Richmond Hill and who originally came to council as a midterm appointee in exactly this manner. My neighbors and I are trusting you to appoint a suitable individual to replace David, someone who will also have his openness to hearing different viewpoints and his commitment to moving Richmond Hill forward in a positive direction. Someone who will work with all of you effectively and collaboratively to respond to the issues and pressures facing Richmond Hill. We hope you have given this appointment significant thought as it affects all of us in this city. We at A Better Richmond Hill have given it some thought and discussion as well, including a review of the curriculum vitae submitted by many of the candidates. And we wish to communicate a few of our thoughts to you before you listen to their presentations and make your deliberations. We feel that a candidate should, 1, have demonstrated responsibility and integrity in their actions and interactions with others. 2, have experience in community service, ideally within Richmond Hill. 3, have relevant professional qualifications which could assist council in achieving its committed goals and future challenges. 4, have demonstrated the ability to work collaboratively in mid-sized teams, leading to positive results. And 5, have a balanced view on development, with growth and investment pressures balanced against the desire to maintain the qualities of our neighborhoods, the building of communities, and the care of the environment. There are many great candidates on this campaign roster. Some have demonstrated a majority of the positive attributes just mentioned and should be given your full attention while they tell you more about who they are and why they want to be the next councillor of Ward 4. Several of them live in Ward 4. There are many who have served in volunteer capacities, on boards, in public service, in positions of responsibility. Some have demonstrated experience collaborating on teams and engaging with multiple stakeholders that could clearly be a benefit to enhancing cooperation and decisions made by this council. Some have advanced educations in finance, business, or law. A few went to the effort to obtain letters of support and reference from others to better recommend themselves to you. Several of the candidates submitted no advance information about themselves at all, and unfortunately, we cannot support or comment on them, except to note that if they didn't take the time to prepare and submit a resume, they probably should not be considered as serious candidates for this position. I hope that you will take our comments and input into account as the candidates tell you more about themselves and how they can improve and support the workings of this council to make this a better Richmond Hill. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning, and best wishes for your deliberations in appointing a new councillor for Ward 4.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chapnick. So we'll get right into the heart of the matter here then. So the next item on the agenda is candidate presentations. So again, just to remind you, the candidates, you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak to address council, and there is a speaking order, which I'm sure everybody is aware of. So we'll get started right away. And the first person on the list is Marty Paulin. So Marty, if you want to come up. Just bring the microphone to your height, Marty. That's great.
It's always moving it down.
I'm not saying that, but yes. Go ahead.
Okay, we can go. Okay, so hi, thanks to all of you for providing me the opportunity to speak. Wow. Other than the Santa Claus drive-through parade, this is my first face-to-face event in 2 years. You all know me. I've attended countless community events in all your wards in my 20 years as the chair and vice chair of the city's Road Watch Committee. Let me tell you a bit more about myself to provide some background as to why I feel I do an exemplary job representing the citizens of Ward 4, as well as all the citizens of Richmond Hill. I'm a retired Bell Canada tech support manager and a graduate of University of Toronto. Now that I've retired, I have the time, energy, and desire to devote to the responsibilities of the position of Ward 4 councillor. I pledge to be approachable, fiscally responsible, and available for all citizens. I have no agenda or ulterior motive other than the desire to serve my fellow Ward 4 residents and all the citizens of Richmond Hill to the best of my ability. And I hope to continue to make and keep Richmond Hill the showpiece of York Region. I'm not treating the position of Ward 4 councillor as a stepping stone to anything or anywhere. The position of municipal councillor comes with important responsibilities and is not one that should be taken lightly. People live, work, and play in Richmond Hill. I've lived in Richmond Hill since the 1980s. First in Ward 5, later in Ward 1, and for the last 33 years, I've lived in Ward 4 on Anvil Court. When I first moved to Richmond Hill, I had more hair and less pounds. Small businesses are the heart of our community. Whether it's the fellow in the vacuum store downtown on Yonge Street who fixed my central vac, Michael at True Pet in Richmond Heights Plaza, Three Coins Restaurant on Yonge Street, Eli at Advanced Unique Taxi on Enford Road, or the dry cleaners on Levendale who shortened the pants I'm wearing today. The proprietors bring growth, innovation, employment, and revenue to our community. We all know that small businesses have unique needs and that they were highly affected during the COVID lockdown. We have to show our support as they recover. It's in all our interests to help them succeed. Initiatives to create local employment, as was done with Amazon, help the community prosper and reduce pollution, which reduces global warming. When people no longer have to commute long distances to work. It also enhances the quality of life by providing more family time. Of course, it increases the city's tax base. Well done, council. My wife and I raised our family in Richmond Hill. Our sons, now both electrical computer engineers, learned to ride their bikes on Anvil Court, learned to swim at the wave pool, learned to skate at Elgin Barrel and Richmond Green Arenas, played Richmond Hill minor ball at Roselawn Public School, and attended summer day camp at 16th Avenue Public School. As such, I'm well aware of the benefit and need for recreational facilities and the importance of having a good quality of life for the residents of the city. Our sons often did their research and homework at Richmond Hill Central Library. There are definite benefits and a continuing need for a viable public library system in the city. There's something to be said for books. Maybe I'm old school, but I firmly believe not everything's solved with a simple Google search. As well, some citizens don't have computer access or aren't computer savvy. Of course, the libraries are also a community hub and meeting place. That being said, I am technology competent. After I retired from Bell, I've worked as a consultant and a tech support manager in the wholesale computer electronics field and in IT. The sign here at City Hall says Richmond Hill is a character community. I prefer to also think of Richmond Hill as a community with character. Richmond Hill has some wonderful and unique attributes that help make it the pride of York Region. Some examples are Lake Wilcox, Bond Lake, the Mill Pond, and the various parks, especially Richmond Green. Not everyone has the means or ability to spend weekends at the cottage, and these gems contribute to the Richmond Hill experience. We must preserve and enhance our parks, green spaces, and community centers. There's more to recreation time for the families of Richmond Hill than a video game, TV show, or a computer. The community centers and sports venues are important for our physical and mental health. The Richmond Hill Center for the Performing Arts is an amazing venue for performance and community activities, and I had the pleasure as a volunteer in assisting with the fundraising for the center by staffing the table selling raffle tickets at Hillcrest Mall. Richmond Hill is fortunate to have Mackenzie Health to serve our medical and mental health needs. As a junior senior who helped care for my parents, I'm cognizant of the needs of Richmond Hill's older citizens, whether it's healthcare, accessibility, recreation, social services, and Hill House Hospice for end-of-life care. We're all responsible for accommodating our older citizens, and as such, we have to adjust our mindset to help facilitate those physically able seniors who wish to afford to stay in their homes. We are also responsible for accommodating the needs of our disabled citizens as they're productive, valued members of our community. There's something to be said for community spirit, and community events help foster that sense of community by bringing families, neighbors, neighborhoods, and the community together. There's more to living in Richmond Hill than a place to lay your head at night. I grew up on a farm in Niagara-on-the-Lake. My sons roll their eyes when I tell them tales of attending elementary school in a two-room schoolhouse. My father was a fruit farmer. I'm uniquely aware of the special place farmers play in providing our food and the rationale for green space. Fruits and vegetables don't grow in the supermarket. I believe it's an honor to give back to the community by volunteering, and as such, I volunteered and served on the city's Road Watch Committee for 20 years now, which has provided me an opportunity to develop a great working relationship with York Regional Police and a high level of understanding of traffic and transportation issues in the city. I received a Volunteer Appreciation Award from Council in recognition of my volunteering activities on the Road Watch Committee. As well, I so enjoyed my interaction with the volunteers of the Richmond Hill Winter Carnival Committee when arranging Road Watch Committee attendance and cooking at the Sunday pancake breakfast that I decided to join them. And I've been a volunteer on the Winter Carnival Committee for a few years now. My portfolio is health and safety. I'm fully conscious of the fact that members of council are required to walk a fine line between the need to maintain the unique character of the city with our historic downtown while facilitating development and growth. We need to do both. Public transit, traffic patterns, feeder streets, parking, water and sewer capacity, electrical capacity, school capacity, the availability of parks and rec facilities, and aesthetics are just some of the factors that must be considered when growth planning, as was done with the Richmond Hill secondary plan. The growth of infill housing, high density and high rise housing, and commercial buildings has to be accommodated while keeping in mind the character of the neighborhoods and the character of the city. My late parents taught me nobody ever gets in trouble for doing the right thing. There's a need for affordable housing in Richmond Hill. Too many young and new Canadian families face the daunting task of finding reasonably priced accommodation. Not every family needs, wants, or can afford to live in a 3,500 square foot single family dwelling, and residential planning, growth, and bylaws must accommodate diverse requirements. My wife and I want our sons to be able to afford to raise their families in Richmond Hill. Young and new Canadian families invigorate the community. Too many families have to avail themselves of the Richmond Hill Community Food Bank as incomes are not rising as quickly as housing expenses and inflation. It's important that Richmond Hill continue as a diverse community, both financially and culturally. As someone who commuted to downtown Toronto for a few years of my career at Bell, I can attest to the fact that affordable and accessible public transportation must continue to evolve. Kudos to council for bringing the subway to Richmond Hill. Council's being empowered by the taxpayers to be fiscally responsible. There's only one taxpayer, whether federal, provincial, or municipal. I served since 1997 as the secretary of a board of a resort on Georgian Bay that several of us took from bankruptcy. We took the bankrupt resort and turned it into an award-winning money-making entity simply by exercising prudent fiscal and human resources management. People are not the only thing that's aging. Council's faced with budgeting for replacing infrastructure.
Sorry, Mr. Paulin, I'm sorry to interrupt. So your time is up. You're pretty close to wrapping up?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
30 seconds.
Well,
as a fellow taxpayer,
quickly.
Thanks for council for holding the line. I'm aware, David, as your replacement, I'd have some big shoes to fill. With your support, Ward 4's got some wonderful community events that I would make certain to continue. And there's no problem, issue, or challenge, only opportunities. Former Mayor Barrow said it best. It's our town. I'd like to also add our city's what we make it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paulin. So actually, just thank you. You can have a seat. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. Actually, that's right. Is there any questions from council at this time? Councillor Munch, go ahead.
Good day. Thanks for putting your name forward. Really great speech. Thank you so much. So I guess I'd say to you, are you working now or are you retired full-time?
I'm full-time retired. I do have a job, but it's just something to do to pass the time. My wife is busy caring for her 93-year-old mother. So I don't want to be at home listening to the countless phone calls. I much prefer to be out of the house, but the job I've got, I can get out of at any time.
And what's the number one thing in Ward 4 that you think needs to be done if you were going to be the councillor we'd like to focus on?
Sorry, Mr. Paulin. So we just to review with everybody before we carry on, we have there's one question allowed per candidate. So Councillor Munch, I'll allow it this time, but we'll not just one question from here on. Sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Paulin.
It was an and.
I thought you could have done an A and a B too.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Paulin.
Anyway, traffic is a big issue. Development is a big issue. Community events, to me, as you all know, are a big issue, and the maintenance thereof. And there's aging infrastructure. So what's my biggest issue? The water main that runs up the east side of Bathurst Street from Major Mac to Elgin Mills has patches on the patches. So right now, that's my biggest concern. It's got to be replaced, and I know you've addressed it as council.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Paulin. Thank you, Councillor Munch. I see Councillor Chan would like to ask a question. Go ahead, Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Paulin, for stepping forward. It's not easy to be the first one to speak, I understand. You make reference to, if I hear correctly, vibrant. You call it downtown, I call it a heritage village.
Yeah.
What's
I miss Heritage Village Day, by the way.
correct? Maybe in a very brief overview, what's your outlook for the future of that heritage village core? Because part of it's in Ward 4, and also, of course, a heritage area in the city. So very generally speaking, what's your view?
My view is we have to maintain it. Small town Ontario is wonderful. As I told you, I grew up in a small town. I can remember in Niagara-on-the-Lake, people tipping their hats to my mother as she walked down the main street in the 1960s. Small town is our community. It's not just urban sprawl. Small town is the character of the community. We have to support the small businesses to stay in place. It's a wonderful part of the city. People need to patronize it. I know it's a bit of an impediment to the rapid transit because it narrows. It's a small price to pay for keeping the community.
Thank you, Mr. Paulin. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for everyone for putting their name forward. It's not an easy thing to do. And by the way, it only gets more difficult as we go on. I want to thank all of you right now for all your service to the community over the years. Marty, you've done a lot of community service, and I want to thank you. I know that most of you don't have the experience that we have sitting on council. And so there's a lot of things that you're going to have to just speculate on until you're actually, put on the gloves and get here. It's a little different looking from the outside. I don't know how much you know, and maybe some of you will want to answer this question later, but the region has spent, I think it's about $2.8 billion.
Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, we need to ask a question. We have a lot of candidates still to go. So you've got a question coming up soon?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So the regional council has invested $2.8 billion in infrastructure with the understanding that they're meeting the targets given to us by what we call, quote unquote, our parents, the province. And they've invested that money in infrastructure, hoping to receive that money back through development charges and increased intensification. Knowing that that's part of your responsibility as a city councillor, even though you don't sit on regional council, where do you think, because we're not meeting our targets according to the province and the growth plan, where do you think that intensification should take place?
Mr. Paulin?
Yeah, so I just took a deep breath here. So there's no point in putting 30-story apartment buildings on the shore of Lake Wilcox. It doesn't fit in with the community. On the other hand, there are more urban portions of Richmond Hill, like Yonge and 7, that warrant the intensification of development. And that's where I would be putting the eggs in my basket. That's the area that can afford the growth. The subway draws everybody. It's wonderful for the young people that live and work in Richmond Hill and live in Richmond Hill and have to commute downtown. And as the world is going back to normal downtown, had the subway been at Yonge and 7, life would have been pretty easy for a lot of people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paulin. Is there anybody else on council that would like to ask a question of Mr. Paulin? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. The next person on the list is Mr. Pat Lagree. Welcome, Mr. Lagree.
Yes, thank you very much.
Actually, can you just move the microphone down a bit, sir?
Oh, right.
There you go, just so we can hear you more clearly. Go ahead.
Is it good?
You've got 10 minutes. Sorry, I just wanted to mention to everybody, the timer is on the screen. And when the first bell is 1 minute left, the second bell is your time is up. So if we try to keep to the 10 minutes, that would be helpful for everybody involved. Go ahead, Mr. Lagree, when you're ready.
Great. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors of the city of Richmond Hill. Thank you for the opportunity of addressing the council and explaining why the most suitable person would be myself to be selected by the council to represent the residents of Ward 4. First, let me say that I am a resident of Ward 4 for over 29 years. Both of our children attended Pleasantville Public School and Mackenzie High School. I live at 36 Crystal Drive, which is in the south end of the city of Ward 4. Very close to Mill Pond. Let me just review my education and then community involvement. I have a master's of political science and public administration and finance from the University of Guelph. I believe you have a copy of my resume in front of you as well. I have an honor bachelor of arts in political science from Laurentian University. I took the advanced leadership development program at the Schulich School of Business at York University. and I did the primer on planning Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario. I did that while I was the chair of the Committee of Adjustment. Community involvement. Presently, I am the chair of the Patient Advisory Family Committee of the Central Lynn, and in the town of Richmond Hill, I am the chair of the Compensation Review Committee for 2022. I was the co-chair and author of the report in 2000 to 2018 for the town of Richmond Hill on the Compensation Review Committee. I am the vice president on the executive committee of the Richmond Hill Slow Pitch League from 2017 to present. And in the past, I wrote the league constitution and bylaws in 2018 for Richmond Hill Old Timers Hockey League. At the Central Inn, I was the Chronic Disease Program Management Service Coordination Committee. I was the chair of that as well. The Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, I was the Health and Safety Committee Corporate Services Division. The town of Richmond Hill, I was the chair and member of the Committee of Adjustment and the Court of Revision chair and member. At the York Region Public School Board, I was the chair and member of the Pleasantville Public School Parent Council for a number of years. I also was coached in the Richmond Hill Ringette Association for approximately 10 years. My work history, you have there on page 2 of the resume. I spent 5 years in Ottawa as a special assistant in the minister's office for the Minister of Small Business and Tourism. After that, I spent 2 years as a special assistant in the minister's office, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I have spent 29 years as a provincial civil servant in the assistant deputy minister's office, as the manager of special projects, which developed nonprofit rent geared income housing with the socioeconomic mix of residents to other housing, including supportive housing, example, Marina House that I've done in Richmond Hill. Amalgamations, I also did amalgamations of municipalities in Toronto, Hamilton, Wentworth, Kingston, Frontenac, Chatham, Kent, Sudbury, Ottawa, Hamilton, Wentworth, under Minister Leach. I also worked at the Ministry of Long-Term Care and Health under the Assistant Deputy Minister of Gail Peach, and I did the redevelopment, long-term care redevelopment of 20,000 beds, which included Leisure World at Bantry Avenue and extended care at Mackenzie Health in Richmond Hill. I also worked for the Assistant Deputy Minister at Marsha Barnes as the manager of implementation for FITS in all of Ontario. There was 150 primary care offices across the province, some attached to small town hospitals. In 2004, I was awarded the ACE Award by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care for FIT Customer Service, the external award. In 2009, I was given the Amethyst Award for FIT Implementation Project Team. That's the highest award a civil servant in the province of Ontario can receive. I do not bring flash and dash, just competent, collaborative administration of the public trust in Richmond Hill, all of which I have done in my career in the federal arena and the provincial government. I will work with the council and the city, as well as the municipal civil service administration, to provide the required great service to the city of residents, and in particular, the residents of Ward 4. It is imperative that council work in a collaborative fashion to address concerns that face the citizens of the municipality. Some of the issues that are of concern to me are the following. This list includes, but are not limited to, affordable housing for a growing population and young people who cannot afford to find suitable housing in Richmond Hill. I have 2 children with Lillian, and Lee is living in Newmarket and Darcy is living in Barrie because they can't afford to live in Richmond Hill. Transit to keep the population moving to their place of work and play, maintaining the plans for growth consistency with city planning, such as community improvement plans, and in particular, inclusionary zoning around major transit station areas and endorsement of the affordable housing strategy actions to help provide greater affordability for current residents and future generations. Council needs to support an inclusion of public input on issues that affect the residents of the municipality. We must not choose the road that reduces public input. The community requires public participation to be successful. It is crucial to the success of any community in Richmond Hill. It is imperative that the province includes the municipality and the residents in these important discussions. Another issue of concern is the ability of those in our community to participate because of a disability of any kind. My wife Lillian has a mobility disability that requires her to have a service dog named Gavin. By the way, she has primary progressive MS and is non-ambulatory. We acquired Gavin through the Lions Foundation of Canada. Gavin assists Lillian with daily household chores and helps her to get around. Lillian has served on disability accessibility committees of both the city of Richmond Hill and the region of York. The previous local councillor, now the mayor, was very helpful in getting the sidewalk crossings changed to allow someone in a scooter or someone who has a vision disability to get around. As well, access to dog parks were a challenge. However, municipal staff and the political advice was helpful in getting this issue resolved. The community must continue so that all citizens of Richmond Hill can fully participate on an equal footing. There are many other issues of importance to the residents of Richmond Hill. I have outlined some of them in this piece. However, the list is not exhaustive by any means. I'm familiar with the role of council, councillor, and staff. These are documents and the Ontario Municipal Councillor's Guide, both of which I worked at when I was at the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So I'm very familiar with the roles of both the council, the staff, and the councillor. You have my resume in front of you there. It outlines the work that I have done both at the federal government and the municipal government. So I won't bore you with getting into that. You can review it at your leisure. In closing, I wish to say that I am most appreciative of the opportunity to outline some of the issues that require urgent attention by the city, discuss and find solutions to these going forward. If the councilors have any questions regarding the issues of my background, I will be happy to offer any clarification required. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lagree. I've got two questions. Councillor, Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, go ahead, and then Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes, Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Lagree. You've mentioned affordable housing and with a degree in political science.
Yep.
And all your work at the province. I'd be interested in knowing, you've maybe perused, I don't know if you've studied the report.
Yes.
The affordability report and the 44 calls to action in that report. When I looked at them, I saw that the most, if not all, in order to make things more affordable, had a direct or indirect implication of cost to the rest of the taxpayers to help make it more affordable for someone else. Can you identify what your take is on how we make, nobody wants affordability more than, a parent. My son had to move out of town as well. And I understand that. I'd love for him to stay here. But how do we accomplish affordable housing without putting the burden on the rest of the taxpayer? Do you have an idea or a thought about that?
During my time as the manager for special projects in the Assistant Deputy Minister's Office of Housing Operations, I probably delivered close to 10,000 units of affordable housing, nonprofit housing. It had various socioeconomic strata involved in the project. So you don't put all kinds of people who are on the lower tier, i.e. Regent Park and Lawrence Heights. What you try to do is have a socioeconomic strata within the building that allows affordability for all people in society. Because if you put all of one tier, a lower tier, into a settlement like Regent Park or Lawrence Heights, you create a great deal of difficulty. So if you were to put large multi-unit residential projects in Richmond Hill, they would probably be best oriented toward major transit hubs, i.e. Yonge and 7, where the subway will go. It doesn't necessarily mean that to get affordability, you reduce the number of units in the project. However, you make some of those units affordable by, i.e. they are less in size possibly, as well, there are a number of programs, both federally and provincially, that should be exercised, and they haven't been. And there's an ability to do that. And as part of the affordable housing strategy in the city of Richmond Hill, we need to take advantage of that and to push the affordability strategy of the city of Richmond Hill forward. And I would love nothing better than to do that, because that's my background. I spent 29 years in the civil service doing this, and not only building social housing or affordable housing, but building primary healthcare teams across the province of Ontario. Unfortunately, I was only able to get one in Richmond Hill at on Highway 7. That's run by anyway, I can't remember the name of it, Care First. But I couldn't get one at the hospital here because the CAO at the time of the town wouldn't budge, and I just couldn't. And I was ready to throw a big chunk of dough at it, and they just didn't. They wouldn't buy it. And the thing is, we need primary healthcare reform in Richmond Hill. I mean, how often have you heard from people? It's so hard to find a primary care physician. Well, I was prepared to bring them to the hospital, and it didn't work. Unfortunately, all 150 units that I had were gone, and there was no money left in the pot. So by the time the CAO came to me, it was a no-go because they didn't have any more money.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lagree.
Yeah.
We've got Regional Local Councillor Paulin next.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
sir. Councillor Paulo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, Mr. Lagree.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I have to disclose, as you know, many of us up here probably know many of the applicants for this position, but I have a bit of a conflict because Mr. Lagree and I play on the same hockey team at Old Timers Hockey here in Richmond Hills. But you have served this community extensively over the years as chair of our committee of adjustment, and I know you have a wealth of experience with your work with the province over a number of years, and specifically with Minister Leach and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. So that's so pertinent to what's happening today. So now, Minister Clark has released, or he has commissioned a report that, to me, is really concerning about revamping, municipal processes in order to create more housing. I have a similar question, and because you mentioned it and you've got some background. Are you familiar with the recent report that's been circulated about how the proposals for reforming the municipal approval process for creating more housing? And can you comment further on that, to the degree?
Councillor Paulo, I was assigned York Region for a period of time. I had to recuse myself because I live here when they were first talking about amalgamations. And we had 17 different proposals that came before this council that I had to defend one way or the other as to how they should do. However, unfortunately, not unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you view it, there were three provincial cabinet ministers at the time, all of them, one, Palladini and Vaughan. Can't remember the councillor, the minister from
Palladini, Cleese, Tabucci.
That's it. Three, four, Tabucci. So there could be no agreement. So we ended up with status quo. Ergo, Mr. Leach, there wasn't a lot of discussion when things went with him, because he just laid down the rules and said, this is what's going to happen in Hamilton, this is what's going to happen in Sudbury, et cetera, et cetera. The new minister, Clark, that has come out with this proposal, is looking to in my view, is looking to centralize the power of those decisions at the provincial level, which I think is a mistake, because municipalities should be able to discern and decide their own future rather than the municipality coming down. Even though the municipality is a creature of the province, it's important and imperative that public input, in particular from the municipalities, is allowed to the province, so that they understand that they just can't come in and bulldoze stuff or bulldoze their way through things. It should be up to the municipality to plan and promote its own growth. It shouldn't come from on high, because quite frankly, like rent control, one size doesn't fit all. You can't put rent control because you got a problem in Toronto up to Missinabie or Manitowage or Sudbury. It's not the same. So it's imperative that council continually defends itself against the province. And I don't say this in a bad way as a former provincial servant. I say this as we need to do this, because if you don't, they will corral you, and the decisions will be, unto the Ontario Municipal Board or the land tribunal there, or cabinet or the minister. So in my opinion, it's imperative that the municipality stand up to that, because if you don't, I think you're done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lagree.
Yep. Thanks.
Councillor Munch.
Yes,
Good day.
Yes, Councillor.
Great seeing you. Great background. Thank you for doing all what you've done. I want to stay on that same housing front.
Yep.
So on that same front, I doubt that you're aware of it, but the 2006 growth plan by the province was a fantastic growth plan of a green belt, urban Ontario and a rural Ontario. We were supposed to meet 200 jobs and homes per hectare in urban Ontario with a minimum target of 50 in 2006, 15 years ago. We've done 28. We're at 56% of our minimum target as a municipality. At 154 years old in Canada, the dream of how Canada has evolved is being destroyed by the current management, because we have not maintained an urban Ontario, protecting the green belt to move to a rural. In fact, the market has gone to rural Ontario. And last year, I don't know if you're aware, but more people left Ontario than came in, even though we have 20,000 people a month coming into the GTA. Question to you following Deputy Mayor Paulin. If municipalities are unable or unwilling or incapable of meeting their obligations to help create housing and jobs for the welfare of water, sewer, garbage in our municipalities, what are you going to say as a Ward 4 councillor when the province starts saying, if we're not able to do responsible growth as per our minimum targets by Richmond Hill standards, we're at 70% of our budget since 2006 here in Richmond Hill, but a lot of people feel that we're overdevelopment or growing. So how would you as the Ward 4 councillor deal with a public who thinks we're overdeveloped when in fact we're massively underdeveloped, and the province is now saying, hey, if you guys don't do your job, we're going to do it ourselves?
Well, the last thing you want is the province coming in and tell you what to do, because I've been on the other side of that, and I've had been the guy that went in to places like Flamborough and said, you're done. You're going to be part of Hamilton Wentworth. End of story. That wasn't pleasant. I mean, not when they call you, who's that suit from Toronto? So if municipalities can't find the balance to be able to say, you're not going to be able to do it overnight. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But you need to show growth with respect to what the targets are within the municipality. The municipality has set the target, not the province. So the planning that's done in the city of Richmond Hill needs to say, we're going to make incremental growth toward that mandate or that level that we said we would do that. Now, that's not going to be easy, because there's a lot of people out here, particularly in North Marine, who say, we don't want any development. But that's like NIMBYism, where they say, sorry, not in my backyard. Well, if every time we went and said, not in my backyard, we wouldn't have any development, and people would be living on the streets in downtown Toronto, not up here in Richmond Hill. So we need to find a way to balance the needs of both those who say no development versus those who say push hard against and push hard forward for development. We need to have that mindset in our own head to say, we can do this. Because if we just throw up our hands and say we can't do this, the province is coming in. And I'll tell you, that's the last people you want to come in and tell you how to do your job. Because then they say it's a total failure of the City of Richmond Hill Council. We have to be able to do that. I believe that I know how to do that. And if I'm selected today, one of my first priorities would be the affordable housing and how do we push that agenda forward? Because if you don't, people like Councillor Pirelli's kids, my kids, they won't have a place to live here. And to be frank with you, when I first moved up here in 1993, I was shocked at I was thought, I don't know if I can afford this place. Fortunately, both of us worked in the civil service. We were able to swing it. Today, I couldn't afford to buy the house in my street.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lagree. A very comprehensive answer. I don't see any other questions at this time. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I hope
So-
that answers your question, Councilman.
So I just want to remind people, I mean, we do have 26 delegations. So, I would ask candidates and members of council to keep their questions brief and their answers brief, just out of respect. We do need to get through this in a reasonable time. So the next person that we have on the agenda to speak is Mr. Roy Dube.
Point of information.
Councillor.
In this process, I've been entrusted by the residents of Ward 4, choose for them the most suitable candidate.
Is this a question?
Are you suggesting we just rush through it to get it
No,
done?
no, not at all. That's not it at all, Councillor. Thank you.
Sounded like-
Thank you. No, that's not my intention whatsoever. Mr. Dube, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, regional ward councillors, members of city staff, residents, fellow candidates. Good morning to everyone. As you know by now, my name is Roy Dube, and I'm very pleased to be here and to put forward my name as a candidate for the Ward 4 councillor position. I do have a PowerPoint slide, and as you can see, it's been projected. What I would like to cover today, we'll move to page 2. Yes, there it is up there. What I'd like to cover today is why I have applied for this job. So I would like to have a discussion with you all as to why I've applied for this job, as well why I feel that I'm the ideal candidate for the position. So if we could please move to slide 3. So we love Richmond Hill. We have lived in Richmond Hill for the past 37 years. I started with my company. I was transferred out to Alberta. When we got transferred back to Ontario or Toronto in 1985, boy, time flies. 1985, we moved to Richmond Hill. Everyone thought I was crazy. Why are you going way up north? But I just had the calling to move to Richmond Hill. And we love Richmond Hill. As a family, we love Richmond Hill. To give you a little bit more of my background, I was born in Guyana, South America. My parents moved to Canada in the late 60s, early 70s. So I moved to Canada with them, and I've lived most of my life in Canada. I come from a very diverse background. And it's important to have this discussion with you. Guyana, country of Guyana is a population of about less than 1 million people and 6 different ethnicities. When I was growing up in my formative years in Guyana, my parents are very liberal-minded, so my brain is very much mapped that way. My background is Hindu. So we used to go to Hindu temple in the morning, Sunday mornings, and Sunday after lunch, we used to have Christian Sunday school at our home. With everyone in the village gathering, we used to be singing the hymns and everything. I'm very good at all these things. So when I moved to Canada, that was embedded in me. When I started hearing about multiculturalism, I couldn't understand, why we needed to have multiculturalism, but soon I understood. But I was already, I already grew up like that. So that is a little bit of my history in terms of my background and where I was born before we moved to Canada. So we have lived in Richmond, as I said, for the past 37 years. Our daughter, Victoria, was born and raised here. And as you can see in the chart, I put that up because I know I just have 10 minutes, and I believe, pictures are worth thousands of words. That's me with Victoria a long time ago when I had a lot more here, and she was about 6 months old. And this was a picture that we took in Richmond Hill with me introducing her to the outdoors. And you could see there's a horse in the picture. Now, our daughter, we do believe in lifelong learning. She has graduated now as a doctor from McGill University. And we are very proud of that because we have learned to give back to the society, and she has actually graduated as a psychologist, clinical psychologist. And especially in these times, I see her work every day helping people. So very, very proud of that. And as you can see to the right, we are a family that basically believe in moving the body and very much inspired by her daughter. She does triathlons, and that's a picture with myself and her at one of her triathlons. I'd like you to meet our pets. Our pets takes us for long walks across Richmond Hill. So we get out there, we meet residents, we talk to residents, we understand basically what's happening, what's going well, what's not going well. Great deal of collaboration. So our pets are Casey, the late Casey and Cosette. And now the Italian side of our family is Rigatoni. Interesting enough that Rigatoni came from a family of other, I would call siblings or the litter. And there's risotto, linguine, Mariana. And so that's our side of the family. So we love rigatoni. So we are very active in the community. We get out, we take long walks. As I said, we speak with residents. I'm very well engaged in the community. So if we can move to the next slide, please. So as I said, I'm very active in the community, as demonstrated by my commitment and strong passion for community services. Volunteering, engaging with residents and councillors. There's a picture at the 55th Volunteer Award with the former mayor, Mayor Barrow. And you have to admit there are two handsome guys in that picture. And my esteemed colleague here, our candidate, Marty, that's a picture of Marty and myself, and representatives from the province at the Santa Claus Parade. I am also a member of the Transportation Committee. I'm the treasurer on that committee with Marty and others. And there's a picture of the last Santa Claus Parade. It was a very cold night, but we really enjoyed getting out and meeting with residents. And, we enjoyed that. As well, over the years, I've been involved in several other committees. I was on the Buttonville Airport Committee. And this was an area where, I don't know if any of you recall, but as the development expanded in Richmond Hill, we used to have a lot of issues with planes flying around, residents complaining both with Markham and with Richmond Hill. And so I was appointed on that committee, and it's the reason why I want to point that out. Sometimes the issues look more complex than it really is. And what it requires basically getting together, talk about what the issues are, and try to find the common ground. How can we coexist together? And that's exactly what we did. We had residents representation from Markham. We had representation from Richmond Hill. We had councillors. We had the airport folks. We got together. We collaborated. We spoke about the issues. And we found common ground to make improvements. And pretty much, the issues kind of dissipated over time. People become happier. So, that was a great accomplishment by the group, and I was part of that. At the bottom left of the chart, I put a picture there of the United Way cricket match. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with cricket, but, very similar to baseball, let's say. And it's a very popular sport, especially in the Commonwealth nation. And back when the Sky Dome was first built in the late 80s, early 90s, a group of us got together and we thought we can pull together a venture to host a cricket match, and we did it for United Way. And we actually did it for 4 years. I was part of the executive members, and I was a marketing chair. That is not my background. My background is finance, but I'm a quick learner. I was able to get up to speed earlier, very quickly. I learned about sponsorship packages. I learned about how things work at the Sky Dome, the consortium members. I learned about Ticketmaster. I presented to Molson, I presented to Toshiba. And over the 4 years, we raised about $2 million for United Way back in the late 80s, early 90s, with sponsorship and cash. I'm very, very proud of that. I was a lot younger then.
You've got 1 more minute.
One
Mr.
more
Dube.
minute. Okay, let me just quickly wrap up here. So in terms of my education, I'm a professional accountant, 40 years, vast, extensive experience, over 25 different positions. I have proven leadership skills, and I'm just going to skip over that because in my bio, most of you have seen that. And let me just take you to the final chart. The final chart, I put this together. When I think of the councillor job, the Ward 4 councillor job, is basically to find that sweet spot between residents, councillor, and the city staff and other stakeholders. And that sweet spot comes through engagement with the residents. It comes through policy making. It comes through stewardship of the city activities. And these are all skills that I basically bring to the table, is to find that sweet spot and to work together in partnership to make things better. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dube. Is there any questions from council at this time? Okay, Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Dube.
Thank you, sir.
Always well-dressed.
Thank
That's
you.
the way I remember you.
Okay, thank you.
I think we met many, many years ago. The question I have for you, sir, is this. If you were tasked with choosing a representative for Ward 4, how would you do it?
Thank you, sir. That's a very good question. Actually, over the years, in my work, I've been part of the recruiting team. I've basically recruited all across Canada at major universities, as well around the globe. We have set up business services center in Buenos Aires, in Budapest, in Bangkok. And I've interviewed many, many people over the years. And we always have very solid candidates that we interview. And it's never an easy task to basically select that one candidate or, the candidate for the job. So if I was on the other side and I was asked to make this decision, the things that I would be looking at is I would be looking basically at the competency skills. Very important. What are the competency skills for this job? And along with the competency skills, I'll be looking for the experience and the knowledge of the candidate. And the most important thing, because in many cases, we find a lot of candidates with these skills and they have, great skills, but is the motivational fit for the position. And what I mean by the motivational fit for the position in terms of the councillor job, it's effectively engaging with your residents. How will you do that is what I would ask. What is your ability to engage with residents? Secondly, you're going to be involved in policy making. What are your skill sets to be effective at that? And working in teams, because that's going to require a lot of team effort to accomplish that. And thirdly, in a job like this, the stewardship and governing of the city's activities. And basically what skills and what experience and knowledge you bring to the table to do that. So this is how I would compartmentalize it. And the motivational fit is one of the most important things that I always look for when I select a candidate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dube.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Councillor Munch.
Good day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Munch.
Good speech. Like to hear it, like the background, learned a little bit. Question to you, like the previous candidate and the others, I'm asking along the same theme. So how would you explain, whose responsibility do you think it is to explain and communicate with the public? And how do you differentiate yourself from the people that are saying, when I moved here 20 years ago, I have a certain expectation, and the expectation of 20 years ago that I moved here towards is not what I'm seeing today. I don't want change. What's your position on that?
Thank you for that question. That's a very important question. And, we all have to agree that change is constant. We go there and you just look at nature, things change on us all the time, whether it's winter, spring, so change is constant. We cannot run away from that. However, we have to do change in a very responsible way. I have been involved in a lot of changes over the years where we have basically migrated work, etc. And it's not, folks who say that, it will never work, etc., etc. So it's very important that we get the facts out on the table. We have that mature communication with folks, and we clearly articulate the pros and the cons of changes and why we need to change. So the more we work in collaboration and in teamwork to explain the change and why we need to change, in my experience in change, the first thing we all react to, including myself, when there's change, you get angry. That there's something that's happening. Then after that, you deny that there's changes that's going on. So it's a phase that you have to go through. And as you go through that phase of changes, you need to engage your folks to get them to that phase of acceptance. And it's never going to be complete acceptance, but like I said, I always look for that sweet spot. And, as adults, I know that we can always find, that sweet spot. And when you're working with a lot of stakeholders, it's never easy. It is never easy. But I do have the skills of to be a good team player. I do have great process management skills. I've been involved in a lot of this. We have moved work around globally, etc. And, this is what it takes with respect to, accomplishing change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dube.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. The next candidate up is Mr. Richard Rupp. Mr. Rupp. Go ahead, sir, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, I am Richard Rupp, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, my experience, and my background. I was born and raised in Toronto, and I moved up to York Region with my family in 1988, where I've lived ever since. When my wife and I got married, we moved to Richmond Hill over 20 years ago. My wife and I and our two children live in Ward 4, and our children go to school in Ward 4. And so Ward 4 is very important to us. Many of you know my involvement in the community through politics over the past decade plus. I was elected for 7 years in a row to the board of the Richmond Hill Federal Liberal Association. The last 3 of those 7 years, I was the riding president here in Richmond Hill. This is where many of you got to know me, as I was very involved in our community and I was active in many community events. These were all volunteer roles, unpaid community-based volunteer roles. After I changed parties, I have been elected 3 times now to the Richmond Hill Federal Conservative Riding Association. Again, unpaid volunteer roles in a Richmond Hill community organization. Now, why is this valuable in the role of a councillor? Since I've had experience with both major political parties, this gives me an advantage that no other candidate before you today has. I can understand the priorities and the mindset of Richmond Hill residents, both on the right and on the left. And this gives me a very balanced viewpoint. This is something that's highly beneficial when dealing with issues of the community because there are many different viewpoints to consider. As well, having served on boards and having chaired boards, I'm very familiar with Robert's rules and the rules of conduct that govern this council. So I would be able to fit in very easily with minimal transition. And I know how to build consensus and work collaboratively on boards and with other people, and I have been doing so for years. Many of you also know I'm a campaign manager for candidates in elections. I managed my first campaign in 1994 for a municipal candidate in Markham. I have since been a campaign manager federally, provincially, and municipally, as well as being the campaign manager for several candidates in nomination races and for both major political parties. Many of you know I was Councillor Karen Silovitz's campaign manager in the 2018 Richmond Hill election for Ward 5. And most recently, I was honored to be the campaign manager for Councillor Godwin Chan in our mayoral by-election. When Mayor West won this election, this left a vacancy in Ward 4. And since I live in Ward 4, and as I said, my children also go to school in Ward 4, I thought this was a perfect opportunity to give back to the community and serve my neighbors in Ward 4. All my experience has prepared me for this in many ways. One way I am confident I can serve the public in this role, as I'm sure you've all experienced as councillors, is that a councillor gets calls from residents that aren't municipal in nature. I'm the only candidate before you that has experience in all levels of government, municipal, regional, provincial, and federal. And this is one of my advantages. I am able to help residents from day one because I'm the one person who is knowledgeable in these different jurisdictions. I'm able to easily direct them when they have an issue that is school trustee related, regional, provincial, or federal in nature. And I'm able to help them coordinate with their representative in those different areas. This is a big advantage for the prospective councillor to have from day one. One of the reasons I've applied for this position is I've been concerned, as many people in Richmond Hill have, by the discourse that has been happening in council. I would like to offer a balanced view and maybe a fresh set of eyes on issues and help find ways where we can find common ground and work collaboratively for the benefit of the people of Richmond Hill. I want to be very clear. Unlike possibly other applicants, I do not come to this with any preconceived notions or any agenda. I believe that that seat belongs to the people of Ward 4, not the person sitting in it. I've always believed that democracy is about being the voice for those you represent. If a contentious issue comes before council, my goal is to reach out to the people of Ward 4, either through an online vote or a public forum. Discuss with them the pros and cons of the issue, and then get their opinion from the people of Ward 4 and the residents of Richmond Hill in general, and bring it back to council. I also want to listen to the varying views of the members of council and of staff to get a fulsome assessment of the issue. Then I would make my vote accordingly. I believe as councillor, if I were to be fortunate enough to be selected, it's not my opinion that matters, but the opinion of the majority of Ward 4 residents. I am ready, able to start working from day one, helping the people of Ward 4 and representing them. And that is my commitment to all of you. Thank you very much for your consideration today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rupp. Is there any questions for council? Councillor Munch.
Good day. Thank you. It's good seeing you.
Thank you, Councillor. Good
Thank you for, we've had some engagement in the past and all the things you've done in the community. So here I'm going to ask you along the same consistent theme to all the candidates. So where would you, as the Ward 4, as you've been on the political arena and on the business side to some degree, so how do you expect, whose responsibility do you think it is to communicate to the public that we need to make a change from Richmond Hill from the 1971 suburban concept, which was the 50-year plan till 21, to a concept where the province has said that if they're investing $5.6 to $5.8 billion, do we want to transition? How are you going to communicate, and what's your view about transitioning from a suburban Toronto community to an urban center, which is a total change from where many people vision Richmond Hill was to where we are effectively going? Whose responsibility is it? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I believe it's the municipal council's responsibility. It's the council, the local council's responsibility to discuss it with the local, for example, Ward 4 residents, and to get their opinion on it. However, I agree with what was said earlier, that we do not want the province coming down the throat of council and dictating to council or to the city of Richmond Hill what they want, and then just overriding the views of the people of council. I think growth is inevitable, and I think we need a balanced growth that respects our community character and the wishes of people in the community, but not in a way that is regressive in nature. I think we need to balance growth because population does grow. People are coming into the GTA. People do want to move to Richmond Hill. I do believe Richmond Hill has the most ideal location in all of the GTA. We have a central location, and I don't think we take best advantage of it. We have the close proximity to the 404, the close proximity to the 400. We have 407 right there. We have now transit coming into Richmond Hill. We are not taking full advantage of the benefits that we have in our central location in York Region and in the GTA. But it has to be done with respect to community character and the vibrancy of the community. We don't want to just concrete over everything and have high density like they do in certain parts of downtown Toronto, which I think over time will not age well. So it has to be balanced with the needs of the community and with an eye of what this community will need 20 years, 50 years down the road.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rupp. Is there anybody else? Councillor Crowley.
Thank you. Just to follow up on Councillor Munch's question. Several weeks ago at a regional council meeting, the mayor of Aurora moved a motion that regional council send a message to the province to eliminate the Ontario Land Tribunal. The Ontario Land Tribunal is a body, a quasi-judicial body that listens to appeals in planning matters, appeals that are brought forward by developers, builders, but more importantly, by members of the public. The purpose of which the province set up, it's a provincial body, the province set it up to make it affordable, accessible for regular people like all of us sitting here today to say, I disagree with what the city did. Or for a developer or builder to say, I disagree with what the city agreed to. Now, that being said, of course, a builder developer can afford to go into a different venue. For example, the alternative to the Ontario Land Tribunal, which was called LPAT, which was formerly called OMB, it's changed in the last couple of years, still the same body. The alternative is to go to a court. And as we all know, courts are very expensive. You need lawyers and you need to spend a lot of money. Now, developers clearly have the funding to go to court. They put it as part of their business costs. But the public, you and I, many of the people here, can't write a check for $50, $100, or $500,000 simply because there's an application that they disagree with. So back to the question. The mayor of Aurora moved a motion at the regional council and through his municipality that the OLT should be eliminated without providing an alternative for the public. What are your thoughts about that, and how would you have voted if that was before you, either here or at a regional level? Thank you.
Well, I'm humbled that you're asking me a question with respect to a regional, the regional council. And I do not subscribe that I would be at that level. However, I do have some familiarity with the OMB and then LPAT a few years ago, and now it's changed to the OLT. I do believe strongly in a checks and balances system. So people will apply and, for example, get something here at Committee of Adjustment, and someone may not agree with it, and they're able to appeal it to the OLT. The court system is very, very expensive. And I think a tribunal, which is governed by the province, is the right way to go with respect to a checks and balance system that can review issues that perhaps the Committee of Adjustment or Council erred in. But I do not believe that the regional council has the jurisdiction to suggest to the province to abandon the OLT because this is a provincial jurisdiction area. So if your question is, do I prefer the idea of getting rid of the OLT so that there is a court system in place instead for appeals? No, it's far too costly. I think that a proper checks and balance system should be in place, but I would hope that it's not abused by developers or members of the public just to use it as a secondary appeal process. It's used in a place where Committee of Adjustment may have made an error in their decision, or council may have made an error decision, and they need a second set of eyes to review it and appeal the decision.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rupp. Is there anybody else? Seeing none, thank you, sir, for your presentation, and you can have a seat. The next person on the list is Miss Carol Chan. Welcome, Ms. Chan. You've got 10 minutes to make your presentation. Mr. Hike. Thank you. Welcome. You can start when you're ready.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Start. Good morning, dear Mayor and all councillors. This is my honor to have an opportunity for sharing my vision, passion, and mission for the Ward 4 councillors. I'm a positive citizen in Richmond Hill for over 30 years. I built my sense of belonging because I love this city. I love volunteer work. From the very beginning, I have been the founder of a children ministry of a Richmond Hill Community Church as a teacher for over 25 years. And also, I have been the coordinator for creating a picture queue of Richmond Hill for celebration of Canada 150 years. Also, I have been the recipient for the Education Achievement Award from your region in celebration of women. Currently, I'm the member of CAG, the Council Accountability Group, for working together for the future of Richmond Hill. And also, I'm the founder, president of Parents Walk and Talk. It is during the pandemic of COVID-19, we like to build up a parents ambassador for overcome the anxiety, you know, and build up a positive energy. Who is Carol Chan? I'm committed to students, support families, and respond to the community needs. I have been the former York Region District School Board for 8 years, a former administrator in York Region District School Board and Separate School Board International Language Program for 10 years. And also I was an assistant supervisor of the Children Division of City of Toronto. Education is my driver life purpose. I believe in promoting civic education is the highest priority for our three-level governments. My current professional advisory role is I'm an IBI and ABA therapist. That means intensive behavior intervention therapist and registered EC for over 20 years. I'm also advisor of Under Banyan Tree Training Center, Richmond Hill Senior Association, and Life Education and Growth Association of Canada. It takes a village to raise a child. Children are our future. I would like to cooperate with City Council among the three-level governments for creating our one learning city through these 5 priorities of community leveraging services. It was inspired by my jurisdictional trip to my kind of a trustee in different countries. Number 1 is we build trust, relationship, and advisory and accountability. Number 2, champion equity, inclusiveness, and diversity. And number 3 is upgrade our recreation and park. Number 4 is effective housing and transportation. Number 5, to corroborate the community health and safety services for improving citizens' achievement and well-being developments. Here are my priorities. Number 1, we build trust, relationship, and accountability in which respond to the demands of a growing community, especially new immigrants, by improving family support and service, such as number 1, joint high quality of student curriculum and programs on positive civic education and environmental development with school boards. Number 2, provide affordable daycare and before and after school program. I'm a registered ECE. Number 3, high quality of senior homes and daycare program. The second priority is champion equity and inclusiveness and diversity. Number 1, job opportunities. Provide more job training and opportunity for new immigrants and high functioning individuals with special needs. Number 2, multiculturalism. Richmond Hill is the highest multicultural city across Ontario. I have been the co-chair for the Asian Month celebration for 7 years with the city councils. I look forward to having a more balance of gender and diversity of representative available at the council team of Richmond Hill. Let's build up a harmony city. The third priority is a recreation and park. Let's design well-being together for our sustainable and healthy environment through well-balanced program and facilities. Motivate everyone involved at different committee for funding and awards. Art and culture program is very important. We have a joint team with the York Region School Boards for art and sport. We have the art program school and sports school to maximize our different potential with new generations like sport, art, ethics, artists, and IT experts. Performance center should be partnership sharing with the community use. Recreation center like our Elgin West Community Center should be upgraded as a modern learning city by high functional facility service such as library, swimming pool, and gym. Mill Pond. Mill Pond Park should be well organized and upgraded as tourism areas, especially for communities, carnivals, art shows, and outdoor performance. And the trail are good for hiking, maintain physical, mental health, and outdoor activities. The fourth priority is housing and transportation. We have improved public transit by operating smoothly with the provincial government and York Region Council. There are 3 areas. Number 1, secure funding and actual construction of subway extension to Richmond Hill. Metro Link has to improve integrated with all public transit systems such as TTC, GoSum, and the Viva Transits. We built Yonge Street and remove the parking along Yonge Street from Elgin Mills to Major Mackenzie. There's always jammed traffic. The balance of a high-rise and affordable housing as well as the comfortable heritage and green city. In conjunction with the strategy of improving local economic to promote live here and work here community. The fifth priority is community health and safety. Strong partnership with York Region School Boards, Public Health Department, Fire Department, York Region Police for motivating civic education. What does it mean by that? It's a responsibility and rights should be built up from the new generation. And family life education is very important. How to fulfill the roles as a positive citizen, build up sense of belonging and contributions. Okay, school zone would be aware of role and community. Medical and health service in protected democracy country, everyone engage on uplifting the physical and mental health well-being, keep away from crime, follow through the protocol of COVID-19 and take vaccination is a priorities. School zone and community safe is for safety. We have to team up with the York Region Police, have an education program yearly. Conclusion, dear ladies and gentlemen, this is my vision of one learning city. I hope it fit in your vision too. Today, I'm confident to be selected because I'm committed, passionate, and experienced officer for 8 years as a trustee and ongoing volunteer for the best interest of community. I'm a good team builder as well as team player. So if I'm luckily selected, I would like to fulfill the full-time work for councillors. How? I will keep residents well informed by sending monthly newsletter and quality town hall meeting with them, sharing with them. Number 2, actively promote the community events and recognize volunteer involvement for making a better Richmond Hill. Let's cooperate in civic education, brighten our new future. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chan. Is there anybody on council who has questions? Councillor Munch?
Good day.
Let's cooperate together.
You bet. Good presentation. Thank you for all the public service you've done. Good seeing you. Good presentation. I like the Canadian flag as a theme, so I used to do that as well. My question to you, as with others on that same theme as I'm doing with everyone, is what is your opinion on how the women in schools can afford and their position on the socioeconomic and the opportunity for women to raise families in Richmond Hill?
Oh, thank you very much.
And how it relates to Ward 4 and what you do for it.
You know what? Now you can see the balancing of a gender is not balanced, especially in the council here, right? But anyway, I'm the working parents. I hope how to. I'm not as highlighted like the women are always accurate, but I promoted women equality, right? It is very important because how to take a role is a balanced role for the family. Family education is very important, right? So I hope more and more capable women can come out to work together as a team for the community. You know, at the family, we can how to negotiate with the wife and the spouse, how to balance. Doesn't matter whatever role. For instance, a husband would like to take over the housework, fine. So I like to, if you're passionate to be a committee member, let's work together, right? So I encourage all the women to come out, if possible, how to manage. But at the family, I promote is, a good kind of family education, like build up the good habit of the children from the young, like 3 years old and up. Then reduce mommy's housework job. Because like the Montessori, why is the Montessori so expensive? Because it is from the very beginning, even 3 years, we build up the good work habit, and then there's like the lifestyle is positive, and the health and positive mental and physical health, then it's for the rest of life. It's reducing a lot of kind of a treatment, like mental health or the youth problem, family problem, no problem. If we work together from the very beginning, build up a good relationship with the family, you know what? I'll really promote like your Chinese 修身齊家治國平天下. That means the self-response, the self-discipline is good, the family is strong, the community is strong, and the country will be best.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Regional Councillor Paulin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor West. So Ms. Chan, I know you have elected experience in Richmond Hill. You represented wards 3, 5, and 6, and that you have some great general ideas that you're bringing forward and presenting to us. And my concern in choosing the person for this position is their affiliation with Ward 4, with the concerns of the residents that live in that area. Do you live in Ward 4? Do you have, do you feel comfortable that you would be able to jump right in over the next 6 months and advocate for those specific issues that Ward 4 residents are grappling with?
Hi, thank you very much for your question. Actually, I live in Ward 6, as Councillor Chan's area, but I'm very familiar with all wards. Why? Because in 2018, I have been the candidate for running the regional councillor. I really look into every ward. And what's the priorities? And what's the needs? And what's the strength of every ward? I'm very familiar with. Like Ward 4, I'm very, very familiar. Even I'm not living in the north part from Stroville down to Elgin Mills. It's a very quiet and comfortable, luxury housing residence. But down to Elgin Mill to Major, oh my goodness, all of a sudden it's busy. You know why? Especially along Young Street and Bathurst, Young Street, from the south part of Young Street, because we are aware the destination terminal will be for the subway. That's why high-rise building is everywhere. Okay, so I really familiar with the kind of future planning. I urge the city we work together with the regional council how to take care the whole thing. The town planning is very important, right? So we have to keep an eye what's the beneficial for the future, right? What is the balancing area? We need the economic, we need the heritage, and also we need a well-being. That's why transit is very important. But harmonies with the housing, like people, how to attract people with different choices. For instance, I like the luxury and lovely area, then you can go to the north part. If I like the efficient part for economic and high rise, then you have the affordable housing as well. This is my future planning. I love to work together. This is how to build up the sense of belonging. That's why I urge we have the committee for look into what is the point. Everyone involved, your voice need to be heard. That's why we work together like this.
Thank you very much. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank
Carol,
you.
you have always impressed me. You ran for regional council. You came in third, right behind me. And, if I wasn't fortunate enough that day, I would have been very proud to have you represent us at the regional level. You really do care. And I know that from my heart. You and only, I think, one other candidate have actually run in elections and put yourself out there. A regional campaign is citywide. And you did that, and you did it with class. And for that, I want to compliment you. You mentioned something early on in your presentation today, that you're a member of an organization called Council Accountability Group. My question to you, Carol, is most recently, the Council Accountability Group had to post an apology to me for their behavior that was very unbecoming. How do you feel about being a member of an organization that had to do something like that?
Oh, thank you very much. Your great question. You know what? I mentioned from the very beginning, I like to be a positive citizen. How? Is it I fulfill the role as a citizen that have the responsibilities and rights. CAG is one of the best kind of volunteer group for fulfill the role as a citizen. How to be a positive way, how to balance. Like I keep an eye on the overall performance of the city council. But I would like to kind of your positive way and also how to get the needs of the community. I let them know this is a concern, our voices, how to involve. Let's collaborate together. I like collaboration. That's why as a citizen, I like to involve different group of volunteer work, even non-stop volunteer. Why I raise I participate in CAG, I treat it very meaningful volunteer work. And also once this group is a little candles, but the light is spread out and everybody like, look at this candidate. Oh, I'm so amazed. I was so amazed. Why 27? I never seen a great candidate like this. This is hallelujah. Thank you very much. Round of applause for everyone. You know why? This indicated all of us pay attention on you. Sorry. The overperformance, but with the new mayor, oh my goodness, I can see the difference from before
Thank you.
and after. Let's work together for the future.
Thank you very much.
Richmond here.
Thank you.
Ms. Chan, you will make a wonderful politician one day. You did not answer my question at all. Congratulations.
That's my
Okay,
way.
so-
I want to make everybody enjoy whatever pros and cons they
Awesome. You are
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you very much.
That's it? I'm sorry.
All right. Is there anybody else
This
on
is
council?
teamwork. You know what? If they want like this for the rest of the
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jan. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, seeing none. The next person is Usha Srinivasian. I've actually been practicing that. I hope I said that correctly. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. And you can begin when you're ready.
Yes,
You've got 10 minutes. Thank you, ma'am.
Usha Srinivasan. It's phonetic.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
phonetic. I'm going to give your time back, I think, because my presentation is very short. It's extremely humbling to hear all these amazing people who've done so much for the city, and I'm learning, and I really wanted this opportunity to come and present really as a learning opportunity more than anything else. So a little bit about myself. So first, thank you, Mayor West and councillors and staff of the City of Richmond Hill for this opportunity to present my candidacy for Ward 4 vacancy. I believe one's collective strengths, both professional and personal, make them uniquely qualified for any role. I believe in bringing my whole self to any opportunity, and I'm sharing specifics below from that context. And I've listened to some of the city council meetings, and you definitely bring your whole self. I see that, so no holds barred there. So my personal journey, I am of South Asian origin. I was born in Chennai in India. If anybody has been to India, you've heard the word Madras curry, and that's where I was born, and had the amazing opportunity to live and study and work in many countries, including Iran. You know, we have a huge Persian population in this community, and I loved my 4 years of living there with my father. UAE, in Dubai, UK, went to school there, US, before immigrating to Canada in 1997. So you could call me a global citizen. I have been hopping around different parts of the world before calling Canada my home. By virtue of living in different continents, I'm very attuned to and empathetic to many cultures. You can't help but be that, and different races and religions. I am Hindu by religion, and I'm very grateful to have an amazing temple here on Bayview that I often visit, among other cultures. But I also went to a Catholic school, so I'm a very mixed person that respects all walks of life. I have lived in Richmond Hill for over 18 years. First in Ward 5 near 16th and Yonge, and since 2006 in Councillor Greg Barrow's ward in Ward 1 at Stouffville and Yonge. And you've done an amazing job, sir, for our community. There are many reasons for me to move to Richmond Hill. I actually first, our port of entry was in Mississauga. And it was very clear to us that we wanted to be in a community that really reflected our values of where we wanted to be. So we decided to move here to Richmond Hill for these reasons. And these are the reasons why we're all here today. And, you know, we love being in this community. Number one, It's truly the diversity of this community. I'll be very blunt and say in Mississauga, I could not find the diversity. I felt I didn't want my children to go to with children from the same country as I am. I wanted diversity, and that truly was reflected in Richmond Hill, and that's what we could see. We had my children have friends that are from, representative here in Persian, Italian, Greek, and Eastern European and Chinese. That's amazing. Our house always looked like the United Nations, which I loved. Eating all kinds of different foods, etc. The amazing schools in Richmond Hill and on is by the Bayview Secondary School plus Richmond Green. They're all top-notch schools, and many parents move here because of that. The reason they're listed high, and so that was one of the reasons we moved here. Of course, being in a safe neighborhood, I did not want to worry if I was going downtown and my children were coming on their own. We were living in a safe neighborhood. That's number 3. And next is I am lucky to be living in the Oak Ridges. I love the nature that we have, the amazing opportunity. I walk out of my house and go to the trail. We're often there, and we've done such an amazing job of maintaining that. And those are really my core reasons why I live where I live. And I listen to the ridicule of people in downtown Toronto. Why do you live in the boonies? Why do you travel so far? I do it because I love this community. I live with my 2 adult kids who are both at York University right now. They went to Cardinal Carter Catholic High School and Richmond Green High School a few years ago. And on a personal note, I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a single mom, and I work very hard to support my family. I think somebody had a question around women and children. Yeah. Well, I'm that woman. On my professional journey side, I was born to parents in the medical and teaching profession. As a result, science became my calling. So I am your geeky scientist in front of you here. I pursued my undergraduate degree in microbiology in University of Bristol in the UK. I was drawn to environmental science right away. Clean tech is my passion. Water is my passion. I wish that we did not have to spend all this energy bringing drinking water all the way up from downtown Toronto to here and waste all that energy and build maybe decentralized homes a little bit more to respect the water resources that we have here. But that will be for another day, but that's one of the passions I have. So I was one of the youngest PhDs to graduate from Dundee Institute of Technology, a few months shy of my 24th birthday. I think I was just very ambitious and just wanted to be a go-getter and did the research. Not that I really knew what I was doing at that time, and you're that young. But I pursued more postdoctoral work in the US and Canada. And in 97, I became an accidental Canadian. I did have some issues in the US through visa. Thank God that I was able to get out of there soon enough to come to this amazing country. Although I enjoyed scientific research, I was eager to bridge that gap into business. And the area that I went into was market research and consulting. So I have been a consultant working with corporate for many years, worked with multinationals, and over the years really traveled outside of Ontario most of my life, that 8 years. Went from here to Porter, went to Pearson, from Richmond Hill to travel to New York and rest of Canada. That was challenging during that time to be traveling. But I had the distinct opportunity to build amazing business with global corporates like GE, Veolia, Honeywell, IBM, and so on. And I have that expertise of having that network of international companies. My business unit was $7 million worth, and I had a staff all around the world. And we're so working with big teams, small teams. I'm very familiar with that, and international teams. After 8 years of working there, I realized I'm not doing anything in Ontario. What the hell is happening in my own jurisdiction? I'm traveling outside of Canada all the time, and it was kind of bothering me a little bit, to say how do I add value back to the country that I'm living in, the province I'm living in. So I happen to understand a lot of the small businesses that were coming to consulting were not able to get the support that we could provide, and therefore I ended up in an organization called Mars. If you've ever been to downtown Toronto, you've seen that big silver sign called Mars Discovery District, and I was lucky enough to be able to work there for 10 years. I worked. I started as a director, and eventually, when I left there, I was working with technology startups across the province. That has been my bread and butter. That has been my area of focus for the past 12 years, working with technology startups, helping those small companies grow. They are the future of Canada. We do not have global companies here anymore. We had the RIM and the Nortel, they're gone. And we need more of those global companies. You've heard of Shopify, you've heard of Wattpad. These are all emerging companies. And there's a potential for Richmond Hill to be that ground where all of those startup activity could happen. So after 10 years of working in this amazing organization, and I did have experience working with the federal government and the provincial government quite a lot and executing their vision. My God, my 10 minutes up already.
You've got 1 more minute.
1 more minute. I received my gold pin for my 10 years of service, and I said, you know what, I need a challenge. So I went and started a startup myself in the food tech space. I built it for 2 years, but it was not COVID proof. I had to put it to rest as a result of COVID. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't good. That led me to work at Ryerson University. That's where really, truly, I understood. I work for Mayor Brown's office. As you know, he is running for election for the federal as a federal candidate. So I work for Ryerson University, but on behalf of City of Brampton, and I truly value the way councillors have dedicated their time and effort to making that city amazing. And it has been an absolute pleasure to build a brand new incubator there and grow it. I'm going to say I don't have the qualifications of the people behind me. I haven't volunteered in Richmond Hill as much as they have. I volunteered outside of Richmond Hill because that's where I've worked. I'm being honest. I volunteered in Prisons Margaret after my cancer, and that's where I got treatment. I volunteered at TRIAC for immigrant communities. I volunteered to help support students to understand what career pathways they should have. I have spent some time with the school council, in my children's school council, and that's all I have done in terms of
Usha, your time is up. So if you can just wrap it up. Thank you.
Yes. So at the end of the day, I'm using this as an opportunity to learn. I want to contribute. I have a lot of global experiences and corporate experience that I could bring to the table as a vacancy. I do not intend to run for an office for the next October. I'm just merely here to learn and contribute and be able to potentially have the opportunity to, in the future, especially Councillor Barrows, I do not want to run against you because you are doing a fantastic job already in Ward 1.
Okay,
that's all.
So much. Thank you very much. Regional and local councillor Pirelli has got a question.
Mrs. Srinivasian, thank you for your presentation. It's getting increasingly more difficult to make a choice here today. It's impressive, one after another. You mentioned that you said you don't feel as qualified as maybe some of the others. I say that as a mother, a cancer survivor, raising 2 children, you are more than qualified. My question is, if you were appointed as the Ward 4 councillor and you learned, as you said, you're here to learn, would you consider running in the general election?
Not this year, sir. Not this year. I have a lot to learn. I get that. I have been learning from my 2 years in city of Brampton, and it takes, I've just listened to some of your questions. I don't even know some of the acronyms you're talking about. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm being very honest here. I mean, I know a lot, but not about this. And I know I can bring some very unique strengths, but maybe in 4 years, I'm not sure. But I want to be humble and say, not this year, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Chan, I saw your card.
Thank you very much. I hope I say it right. Dr. Srinivasian, did I
Yes,
say it
Usha
right?
would be
Okay,
fine.
good. I'm trying. I truly appreciate you being very candid, because very often these forums you say how great I am, how ideal I am for this position. And you really take a very honest approach to this. And I have to say, perhaps it's partly is I would presume is having the academic background and a startup. I'm quite familiar what Mars is what they're doing and not doing, and particularly Radisson with the digital zone and all this, and applaud Mayor Brown and the former Brampton Council for the vision. I'm very gung-ho on economic development. I mean, I got into this job 16 years ago. Also, we have economic development in my brochure. So the question I have for you is that for the opportunity to make a contribution in about 6 months period, as you mentioned, what particularly priority or direction or insights you can help Richmond Hill to really rejuvenate the particular startups all the way to scale up, particularly now in the not quite post, but adapting to the COVID. What's your vision that you can help Richmond Hill to steer the way to economic recovery using your experience that in the digital venture and even a startup founded yourself?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah. What I've noticed about kind of Richmond Hill is there's a huge commuter community. You know, I commuted for 1.5 hours every day, each way to get to downtown and back, either from King City Golden train station. Gormley, by the way, it's 20 minutes more. So I did not take that. But it is what it is. But I know most of those people like me that are in this community are getting the opportunity to work from home more and more. But you know what the challenge is, what I've heard is a lot of them have little children at home. And working from home is not as easy for those people, right? They either have to spend the money to put them in daycare and work from home, or try to manage their time with their spouses. I think one of the things we could think about is mixed use. And I'm saying it without any context around what is what land is available. These trend of mixed use spaces are increasing, where you have retail at the bottom, you have some office spaces that GE wants to rent out, or some other corporate wants to rent out because they say, hey guys, don't come to Mississauga to work. I know you live in Richmond Hill or in Vaughan, go to this common office space where you can work from, and then have a housing on the top. Maybe those kind of opportunities that there are some things that we can explore, right? Because the way people are working has changed in this past 2 years. That's one for sure. And I'd love to compete with Swan and, Markham, they have Tesla coming and, they're always making all these big announcements. I have actually had the opportunity to travel with Mayor Scarpetti to India with Premier Kathleen Wynne, and he's aggressive. He's like, going and meeting with people. And so I'd love for Richmond Hill to compete, sir. I would love for us to bring some multinational here. You did an amazing job of bringing Amazon, but there's so much more opportunity, but being balanced. And as a clean tech scientist, I say, are we really meeting our goals of environmental goals when all of us are traveling down to downtown and back. Should we just be a bedroom community? Should we have a balance of work and play in Richmond Hill? Perhaps there's an opportunity there.
Thank you so
very
much.
much for your answer. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Councillor Munch.
Good day. It's great seeing you. Great to have a PhD. Very hard to do. Great on your education, great on your experience. Thanks for coming. Really good interview, fantastic presentation. You're absolutely equal to all of us in this room and don't ever be bashful for that. In fact, you give ambition to a lot of people, including myself. Good answers. My question to you is on your water and sewer, on that concern. What do you think about the concern for water quality going forward and what the responsibility is? And what would you do, should you be the Ward 4 councillor, and how you would want to see the environment, the water, the trees, and how that affects it? And what's your passion and interest in that?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I know very many people may not know the word Ontario. Do you know what that means? It means beautiful water. We have 500,000 lakes in Ontario. And Oak Ridges is one of the biggest feeders of that water system. Everything that we collect here in Oak Ridges goes down to the lake. One of the things that people don't think about is the water energy nexus. What I mean by that is when all of the homes here in Richmond Hill get their water from downtown Toronto, and all the pipes that up to probably Shepherd are really old, and we lose 30% of that water, right? So you are, yes, Councillor Pirelli, you're making that face. Yes, it's true. So they are pumping all that water up to Richmond Hill. You're losing all that water halfway, and you have new systems by the time they get here. So regardless of whether you have solar or whatever energy, you're wasting the energy to begin with. So I really, Richmond Hill could be, idealistically, a town that builds different kinds of homes, that has more decentralized water systems, which is, that's my passion. I mean, I don't know, 100 years from now, maybe that's possible, but you could recycle gray water. For example, everything that you wash your hands with, your sink and your bath water could be recycled in your home. The technology exists. We just don't adopt it because builders don't want to look at it. Builders are happy to just do the same thing over and over again, right? If you can use that gray water in your home to flush your toilet, you will be cutting down half the water in your home. But nobody wants to really take that step. We could be building communities that are environmentally more sustainable that way. Because we have too much water, we waste it. Right?
Thank you very much.
Sorry, my
No,
time
you're
is up,
welcome.
probably.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your time, and you can have a seat.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So the next person is Ryan Razay. And I actually presume is it Ryan or Ryan?
It's pronounced Ryan.
All right, good. I did it right.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
So you got 10 minutes, sir, to address council. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to wish a good morning to the mayor, to the council, and everybody who's attended. My name is Ryan Razay, and I'll be going through my presentation with you today. Next slide, please. So yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about myself. I attended St. Teresa Catholic High School here in Richmond Hill. I live right around the area, just across the road. Since then, I've attended University of Toronto, downtown, and over there, I found a love for first responding. I started with the first responder group on campus there. And from there, I transitioned into York Region, St. John Ambulance. And through there, I got to do some cool events like Markham Fair and the Santa Claus Parade. If you see us in the ambulance over there on the side, that's us you can go to if you need any medical help. But other than that, there was a lot of opportunities during COVID. For example, I was a volunteer in the Monchong long-term care home. I also worked in a COVID self-isolation center for people who couldn't self-isolate during COVID and needed a place to go to. I also worked to set up temporary housing for Afghanis as they were coming to Canada from the Taliban invasion of Afghanistan. And during these opportunities, I had the privilege of working with Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada, with York Region Public Health, and with non-governmental entities such as the Canadian Red Cross. So I do have experience working with these entities. And now I just want to go into some issues that I'm passionate about. If you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So one of the major issues I'm interested in is public outreach. And as representatives of people, I think one of the greatest duties we have to them is to make sure that we represent them correctly. And I think that the technology has come a long way to allow us to do that. Because if you think about council traditionally, it had some issues with accessibility for people. Like if you want to go to a council meeting, you have to show up at 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, sit in a council meeting and could go till 6:30 p.m. A lot of people do have issues that are important to them, but they may think it's not worth losing a day's worth of work to come to council to talk about these issues. But now we've seen recently with Zoom, people are able to join the meetings. People will give their presentation when it's on their turn to speak. And when it's over, they can be on their merry way, and they can do this from the comfort of their home, or they can also do it from their work. And that's not just an accessibility in those terms, in voting too. If you look at the turnout rates for the recent election we had a turnout rate of, I think, 32%, which for municipal politics in Richmond is quite high. And 93% of those ballots were cast online. While the system isn't perfect, better things could be done in regards to ensuring that our residents feel secure about the elections. It is still a great step we can take to ensure accessibility. And something that I'm vowing to do, if I become councillor myself, is to engage with the residents where they are online. Residents usually don't go online to just go on richmondhill.ca, as great as the website is. They tend to go on, for example, social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, like with the new generation, they really like TikTok. Yeah, and something that I want to do is kind of get people into politics the same way I got into politics. I got into municipal politics just because I got interested. I was just watched a couple of videos of the council meetings that were going on, and I saw how impactful municipal politics is, and I myself got involved. I think that's a great way to get the youth involved. And can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So another thing I want to do is to ensure that we have prompt action here in Richmond Hill. And again, by prompt action, I don't mean that I want just to cram down legislation without due process. I have extreme respect for the due process it takes to establish our motions. What I mean by that is that when we want to provide a service to our residents, we have to make sure it gets done in a timely manner. And one way I think we can do this is whenever we want to submit a motion, we can put in at least an approximate deadline so that residents can look at the motion and be like, okay, so this motion is promising me these services, and they say they can get it done approximately by this date. And also, I think what should also be over there is some form of accountability, some form that the residents are able to follow up. Not for something like a purpose of a witch hunt, just for the purpose of following up in case we miss the deadline, so we can tell them, hey, we tried to do this. We had to collaborate with York Region. York Region wanted to take more time. We couldn't get it done right now, but the new deadline is this time. And I think residents would appreciate that, and residents would be able to better plan their future if we gave them this option. And for example, if you want a specific example to this, I think the most recent council meeting we had regarding there was an issue regarding Parks and Recreation with a soccer dome, where we had families coming in and talking to us about how important it was to get the soccer dome in quick. And one of the things they were saying is that, sure, while council is looking to see where's the best area to put it, these people are spending so much time commuting to other areas like Stouffville and Vaughan to get their kids to soccer practice. If we deliberate that on years on, that's years they're spending just commuting with no real reason. And can I go to the next point? Oh, sorry, can you go to the previous point again? Yeah, just an example I have, that's the key directions report. I have to say a disclaimer that the key direction report didn't have any specific policies necessarily. It was more of a foundational thing for our official plan. But for example, next to those red headlines, you can put some deadlines so people could expect by what time they could expect these services for. If you go to the next slide, please. Okay, and the third issue I really want to talk about is sustainable development. We all know Richmond Hill is a growing city, And Richmond Hill is facing demands both on the regional level and on the provincial level to expand its transit and expand its housing. And I've heard on council people saying that this is the biggest issue that Richmond Hill is facing in decades. And it is for good reason, because Richmond Hill is at the very heart of York Region, sandwiched exactly in between them. In York Region and the province, they want, with good reason, to intensify their transit over here. And one of the great sources of encouragement I had was the 2041 Key Directions Report. I think, like, especially, I have it written down here, it was Policy Manager Juan Carlso's presentation during February 9th that I was watching. In there, she spoke about the plan, and it was a really well thought out plan. If you go and listen to it, it mentions issues such as housing, mentions issues such as transit, it mentions issues such as how Richmond is going to develop. She was talking about how the vision is for Richmond Hill residents to be able to afford all their daily needs within a 15-minute walk, making our city a much more livable place, reducing our need for transit via like our private vehicles, and increasing our availability for public transit. Now, this all is amazing, and council has endorsed that. Well, what is important for me is the next step, which is coming to the policy planning regarding the thing. But I also want to talk about another thing during the February 9th meeting. So watching the February 9th meeting, I think it's the first time I saw this, it took council 2 hours to approve the agenda. And during these 2 hours, people got into heated arguments, which honestly I like, I admire. If you are that passionate about some issues, I completely agree that this is a public forum for you to come and talk about these issues. But what I admire more than that is that when the presentation was done, council, of course, asked their questions. And when it came to time to endorse that, all council saw that this was in the interest of citizens of Richmond Hill. And in good faith, council unanimously endorsed this report. Now, again, this comes with the addendum that this report is more of a vision. It comes with nothing really solid. In my opinion, the councillor that takes this position has a really important task of making decisions in the next 6 months that will impact how this policy is really being carried out and how policies are being designed. And one other thing I wanted to say, just to conclude, is that I have faith in the councillors of Richmond Hill that will act in good faith, and I have faith in the excellence of the staff of Richmond Hill. And it is with this confidence in the services of Richmond Hill that I'm running for councillor, because I believe that yes, we can face this challenge, but not only can we face this challenge, I believe we can turn Richmond Hill into a vibrant community that will not only be an example for York Region, but be a great example globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So questions from council, Councillor Munch?
Good day.
Good day to you.
So you can see the diversity of people coming today. You're hearing different points of view from education, from young, old, male, female, family, non-family. You're the first one to actually give an example of current events on how it is here. And many people do not know, because just the way how our government is, and open and transparency is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask a really tough question.
Mm-hmm.
You're the first one, which has no answer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you now, there is no correct answer to this question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good debate for all of us to think about. And I'll give you a moment to think about after my question, so don't go off the cuff.
Okay.
So who decides the future vision of a community? Is it the courts? Is it politicians? Is it a staff report? Is it a lobbyist?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the provincial government?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the trends where we think we need to go in the future? Who, in your mind, if you were to become the Ward 4 councillor, would take the predominant priority? And where would when there's a contrast, how would you engage that with the community that you're serving? Take a moment to think about that. That is by far the toughest question. And, unfortunately, it's only because of your, the way that you did thought-provoking and you went forward in current events
Mhm.
I'd like you, if you can think about it and you can change your mind later. And you know, I said there's no answer. There's no correct answer to that
Yeah.
because everyone has a different point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, to answer that question, honestly, I'd have to sit around, maybe deliberate it, research the question a bit myself. But since we don't have that because of the restraints of this meeting, I'll just give you my opinion as it is right now. So we do have a structure in terms of how power plays out in making decisions. For example, I am aware that the city of Richmond Hill or municipal politics is a child of the provincial government. And ultimately, we have seen times where the federal government can also intervene in here. So that is the reality of it. But I think the reason that a municipal government is so important is that we are the best representatives that people of Richmond Hill have, because we are the people that serve them. We are the people that are in their community. I believe that if, for example, the province wants to enact its vision, they will miss out on some key intricacies that Richmond Hill has that they don't have insight about. So again, right now, especially with the question about transit, it's really a question of who has authority. And I don't really know the answer, but I hope the answer would be the Council of Richmond Hill, because they're the best representatives that Richmond will have. Again, one of the reasons that I'm vying so hard for public outreach is that so we can show the province that we do represent the people, that we have an overwhelming amount of people coming out supporting our key visions plans, and so that the province ultimately lets us move on with Richmond Hill development the way we want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor, Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And more importantly, thank you for your service. You're a paramedic, correct?
I'm a medical first responder, not a paramedic, but it's
Medical?
okay.
To me, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I have to start off by saying that you look young, and I'm impressed with the way you speak. I think you speak from the heart. You said you got involved in politics because certain things that have happened to you. I myself in 1991 had an issue with my local councillor about a fence. And I wasn't pleased with the way I was treated. And that's what sparked me to look into this calling, as we call it. It's not really a career. My question to you is this. If you are chosen as the Ward 4 representative, regardless of whether you're chosen or not, do you have any aspirations of running in the upcoming general election?
That is something I'm considering. Mostly, it depends. My entire aspirations for participating in municipal politics is that I believe in this concept of civic duty. I believe that if you want to participate in democracy, it's not just enough that you go and vote. I think that's a bare minimum. I think more than that, it's your responsibility to go and get involved in the politics around you. That includes municipal politics, and I think municipal politics is a great example of that. So I don't aspire for a career in politics necessarily. I want to continue with my path in healthcare. But wherever I can, wherever I see I can make a contribution, for example, right here, I see myself that I can come to council, I can have my own visions, and I'm capable of contributing to council. So ultimately it comes to a matter of whether I believe or not I can contribute to council in my time. If I, for example, whether or not I become councillor during this election, during next election, again, I'll reevaluate. See, okay, if I join council, what can I bring to council? What effects will me being a local councillor have that I think will be beneficial to the community? And ultimately, that's going to be what's going to make me decide whether or not I run for council.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Regional Local Councillor DePaulo.
Thank you, Mayor West. And thank you for your approach and your appreciation for what's happening right now on this council, because that's what's going to be important. You're going to jump right in over the next 6 months. All 9 of us, including the newly appointed Ward 4 councillor, will will have to really advocate for Richmond Hill. We're at a crossroads. We've got the provincial government looming on pulling the trigger on a transit-oriented community and an MZO that will drastically transform Richmond Hill. In my opinion, it will devastate our local infrastructure, our local road networks. Their proposal does not come with adequate schools and parks and pedestrian access. And you've adequately understood that over the past 2 years, in consultation with the residents of Richmond Hill, we have developed an incredible document. We have an official plan update process that we're in the 11th hour that has considered the interests of the residents of Richmond Hill from Highway 7 to Bloomington. And it's a balanced document. It does take on a lot of responsibility for the growth that goes along with a major investment in infrastructure like the province is about to do. So how do you personally, as a Ward 4 councillor, feel that you could take Richmond Hill's cause to maybe even alter the decision of the province? How can you work together with the rest of council to get the province to put the brakes on? Because that's the fight we're in right now. Do you see yourself as jumping right into that fight on behalf of our residents?
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because, for example, you look at the key developments that we've developed in Richmond Hill. You look at the presentation they were giving. They didn't just make the plan just because they wanted to. They made the plan with careful consideration and consultation with stakeholders inside Richmond Hill, including the public, including local business owners, including, for example, like forestry. It took them more than an entire year to come up with the plan and write it down. I don't think that Ontario has done nearly even half as much due diligence as the staff of Richmond Hill have done in coming up with that plan. So, and I think Ontario's proposal really, in terms of creating those, like, again, I'm not really against creating more transit, but I think the way that Ontario is doing it will ultimately break up some of the valued neighborhoods that we have. And again, it really doesn't have that attention to detail that you need in a city that has 200,000 people living inside it. You know, these plans that Ontario may want to bring, again, just like I talked about the soccer gnome, you may just think it's a soccer gnome, but it influences the daily lives of Richmond Hill residents. It directly influences their quality of lives. And as a representative of the people of Richmond Hill, I will do my very best to advocate for their interests.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other folks wanting to ask a question, thank you, sir, for your time. We
Thank
appreciate
you very
it.
much for listening.
So council, it's 5 minutes to 12. I think if we do one more and then we'll take a break after that, if that works. Am I seeing
So if I
a general agreement?
So I make an announcement quickly. I'm going to be bringing in some food. So those that did not bring lunch, there will be food provided for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's do one more and then we'll call a lunch break. So the next person on the list is Russell Horner. So Mr. Horner, if you'd like to make your way up. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mayor West, regional councillors, local councillors. I appreciate very much being here this morning with you. It's an honor to be here in the chamber. Some simple background information first. My name is Russ Horner. I've lived in Richmond Hill for 10 years and am a resident of Ward 4. I grew up in Maple, our neighbor, attended Langstaff Secondary School, and my parents have lived in Richmond Hill for 37 years. My parents were very active in the community, with my father serving on the York Central Hospital Foundation Board for many years, and both my mother and father serving with the Richmond Hill Horticultural Society, their church, and other social groups. I am a business owner. Over the years, I created 3 businesses. The Great Character Company, which was a character mascot business, which operated for 35 years. Cycle Communications was a marketing support business, which ran for 17 years. And Descriptive Scanning, which is a digitizing business, which is currently operating. I have volunteered my time a lot in Richmond Hill for organizations such as the Richmond Hill Winter Carnival High School Hockey Tournament, the Richmond Hill Legion, the Salvation Army, the Craftsman Center, and the Richmond Hill Lawn Bowling Club. When I first heard about the opportunity to apply for the vacant position of Ward 4 councillor, I reviewed my entire work career to determine if I might be a good fit for the city and the residents of Ward 4. What would I have to bring to the role of councillor, and what would I have to offer? And during that review, I discovered two common elements in almost every role I've ever had. Number one, almost everything I have done has revolved around bringing people together. And what I mean by that is bringing people together, not just for an engagement, a program, or an event, but for talking, for making decisions, or simply listening. Secondly, I realized that the successful delivery of any task within my role was directly dependent on the involvement of the people around me, my associates, my managers, advisors, directors, volunteers, people that had different skill sets and roles, yet we shared common goals. Slide 2, please. From my early days at Canada's Wonderland in the entertainment department to my work as International Youth Year Coordinator for the City of Toronto, I realized the roles were all about bringing people together with the ongoing support of others. Years later, my work with the 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Games in Vancouver exposed me to much higher levels of community and stakeholder engagement, bringing people together from all over the country and the world. First Nations, people of all abilities, all ages, while working on a team within a network of dozens of other teams. Licensing, logistics, creative, finance, operations, security, all working, engaging, listening to one another in order to reach time-sensitive common goals. Slide 3, please. After the Games, I began my work with the Rick Hansen Foundation and was the community engagement manager for Rick Hansen's 25th anniversary relay, a 9-month coast-to-coast event recognizing and celebrating over 7,000 different makers from over 600 communities across Canada. I met with hundreds of municipal and community representatives, accessibility organizations, youth groups, sports organizations, providing planning and logistical guidelines, and preparing communities in advance of the relay rolling through. This project, again, was about bringing people together and working together to make it all work. The relay was extremely challenging over 9 months as we traveled in convoy through winter storms, dangerous mountain passes, and other obstacles, making us even more reliant on one another for direction and support. Slide 4, please. And while working at McDonald's Canada in their marketing department, I worked on the National Atomic Hockey Program, involving hundreds of franchisees and boys and girls hockey associations across the country. My responsibilities included budget control on all grassroots hockey activities, franchisee communication, special promotional events, and weekly team meetings with agencies and suppliers. Again, all about working together, listening to ideas and concerns, and developing strategies for delivery. Slide 5, please. In 2016, I walked into our Richmond Hill Legion for the very first time and recognized very quickly that maybe they could use some help. It looked like, to me, they needed some assistance in transitioning to a newer way of doing things. A renewed, more open, positive, and inclusive direction of public engagement and new sources of income. I offered to help them in many areas of their operation and created inexpensive programs and higher quality events, such as the Invictus Games celebration, the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge, while initiating a greater social media presence. The Legion began attracting more and diverse clients from the film and TV industry, commercial enterprises, and even the Board of Health activities. generating new sources of rental income. The improvements have continued thanks to members of the executive team at the Legion who have worked tirelessly on grant applications, summer student assistance, and ongoing support from the public and members of this council. Slide number 6, please. Members of council, it is my nature to listen, to be understanding and respectful, to use common sense, to be resourceful and diligent in finding answers, to deliver, and to be open and honest while working with others to achieve goals. Listed on the screen are the names of a number of residents from Richmond Hill and Ward 4 who have seen these qualities in me firsthand and who believe I would work very well with you and with our residents as their council representative. I am confident that bringing my many years of diverse business and community engagement experience to the councillor role would be an asset to you and residents. But more importantly, I feel that especially at this time, as we face growth challenges, as we finally begin to remove barriers after a very difficult 2.5 years, to slowly open up our lives and our businesses again, my approach to working with people of all backgrounds, cultures, abilities, and ages with integrity, openness, and respect may also be a good thing for this city and the residents of Ward 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horner. Is there any questions for Mr. Horner? Councillor Munch.
Good day. Good seeing you. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all the work you did at Legion. For those who don't know, I still think of your hand, believe it or not, from an incident that happened at the Legion. So I'm going to ask you, in all your engagement with the Richmond Hill, with the Legion that I know you worked hard with for years, so what do you think as a Ward 4 person who's been there all the time, and you know as I do about how challenging it is to offset the expectations of the Ward 4 people and their direction going forward with needs where Richmond Hill is going to be required to go? Should we wish to be a Richmond Hill going forward, we are going to have to start meeting our requirements, which we haven't done. 13 of the last 15 years, we have been short of what our obligations are. We have not met our budgets here of our internal 13 of the last 15 years for providing housing, for providing growth and infrastructure. But yet some of the people don't want growth or infrastructure to grow, even though we have some tainted water here in Richmond Hill. How would you, as the Ward 4 councillor, offset that? And what's more important, to cater to the local interest, or would you look after the better interest as the whole? And how would you advocate?
It's a really good question. And I think a lot goes into the answer to that. Number one, as role of councillor, the people and listening to the people is really key and important. And even though I grew up in Maple, Richmond Hill was the go-to place for almost everything. Bowling, Chinese food, everything. We came to Richmond Hill. We relied on Richmond Hill as kids and as a family. And as I got into high school, in Richmond Hill at Langstaff, we hung out in Richmond Hill. It's where we lived most of the time. The Richmond Hill Carnival, it was cool. That's where we got together and met people and came together. Something like the Winter Carnival and many other functions, that's what develops the character in a community. And I can understand living in Maple and seeing the growth in Maple in itself and losing some of that sense of where I came from. I understand that very well. So we can't let go, councillor, of our character and of our history. And we need to retain and protect that as much as possible. To answer the other part of your question, yes, we're going to have growth. We will have growth. And it's how we manage that growth and the decisions we make going forward and the push we make to make sure the things that we want as a community is part of that growth. But I also see that growth as a huge opportunity for all of Richmond Hill. It brings in a whole new group of people into the community to work on things up here, to enjoy what we have on the other end of the city. to work together. It's a huge resource of people that we're going to be able to count on to get involved and to create new things and enhance the overall character of Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. Councillor Chan, and then Councillor Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Well, I was about to say good morning, but just past noon. Good afternoon, Mr. Hunter. And thank you so much for all the services you have done to the community, including the Legion, where I have witnessed your active participation, and truly appreciate that. And you mentioned about bringing people together. That is one of your strengths. And also you're talking about that making our particular city certainly would be, I hate to use that term, perhaps more superior, I use double adjective here, than Maple next door. How do you see, compared to our next door, which meaning west of Bathurst and Vaughan, how as potential future Ward 4 councillor could enhance the kind of recreational programs or things of that nature, open space, let's say around Elgin West Community Center and all these great outdoor spaces in the Ward 4 of our great city of Richmond Hill?
Thank you for that. And that's a really important question. I love the outdoors. I love to participate in lots of different things. I try and get others involved. I always seem to lose when I do that, but whatever we're playing. But anyway, it's important. And again, this is a huge opportunity, again, to bring people together, to find out, what do you want? What do you want to do? Can you do it? This comes to people with disabilities. Can you do it? We want all people to be able to participate in all the areas of Richmond Hill. Very, very important. And it comes down to, first of all, it's about getting people together. What do you want? What do we have? What can we expand on? What do we have in Richmond Hill that hasn't been touched yet or even explored? I know there's talk about pickleball courts. Fantastic. Great. That is really, really great. It is a huge activity and sport. We're connected to butterflies, butterfly conservancy. That's awesome to be able to do that and say that there's so many activities. I would love to see participation from the residents to find out, what do you want to see? And I'm not saying, and when I'm saying residents, I mean residents of all ages, seniors, people with disabilities, people from all different backgrounds and walks of life. I want to ask them, what would you like to see and do in Richmond Hill?
Thank you, Mr. Horner. So I've got Regional Local Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. I met you for the first time around 9:30. That's why I'm going to use you as an excuse why I was late, because I was speaking with you. Thanks for covering for me. Wow, you you do so much, and you've done so much. And I always ask, does someone have the time to devote the time to council? And I'm reminded of the saying, if you want something done, ask someone who doesn't have any time to do it, because those are the people that are engaged in our community. And thank you for that. I'm going to ask you a little bit of an unusual question. I know, like everyone else, you've been paying attention to all the presentations here today. If you were sitting here and you've only had the benefit of listening to 7 other speakers before you, who would you choose? And part B, if you are not the chosen one, would you be running in the next election? That's my one question with 2 parts.
Thank
so
you
who
for
would
that.
you choose out of the 7 that presented here today, if you had to make a choice, as we'll be faced with that choice? And will you be planning, if you're not successful, to run in the next election? Thank you.
I'll answer the second part first. And yes, I am planning to run in the next election. That is the plan. The other part of it is that's really hard to say. When I'm listening to the presentations, I'm listening as a resident of Ward 4. And I'm very used to working in teams. My whole career, as I've listed, I hope it wasn't too long, but I did I have worked with teams my entire career. I've also had problems in my career. I've run into difficulties in my career, and I've had questions and concerns. Who do I go to during that time? I would want a person in Ward 4 that is open and will be honest with me and will be direct with me and may sometimes have to deliver a tough answer. But that's the role of counselor. And I understand that and appreciate that, because that counselor has probably already spoken to hundreds of other people in regards to that same question that I may have. And so I would, if that counselor gave me an answer that maybe I wasn't looking for, I would want to be able to trust and respect that he's giving me an honest answer.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Mr. Horner? I actually have one. So you had mentioned your experience with working with municipalities in both your resume and your presentation. Can you expand? I think that's important. Can you expand on, what have you learned in working with the various municipalities in your career that you would be able to bring to the Ward 4 position?
Well, I'll start with a time very long ago. We're talking in the 80s now, so excuse me. But I was working on Toronto's 150th birthday celebration, Toronto Sesquicentennial. And that was for 14 months. And then right after that, I was part of International Youth Year. I was coordinator for the International Youth Year. So my office was in City Hall. And that was my first kind of dose of the political world and seeing people work together and sitting in on council meetings and so on at quite a young age. And again, I saw how teams work and how decisions get made and how things get shared and communicated. And that's the way those 2 years were. It was all about communicating, coming up with ideas, and working with the different departments and staff members to get things done. And can we do this or can't we do this? So that was my first experience. And then with even the Olympic Games and even with Rick Hansen and meeting all of the municipalities, it was all about working together with people. And I saw all of the people that I dealt with in these little communities to larger communities working together and getting excited. This was, I'll take the example of the Rick Hansen Relay. This was an exciting thing. We were highlighting 7,000 difference makers across the country. These are our volunteers. These are people that had overcome challenges to make a difference in the lives of others, to be inspirational to others. So I can see how council members and a community can get together for common goals to just make it all work if we're all together on it.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I think we are done for the pre-part of the pre-lunch part of the meeting. So it is 12:15. I would ask that everybody gets back here by 1:15. We'll take an hour, relax and have lunch, and we will see you back here in 1 hour. Thanks very much.